Ladies and gentlemen, I'll call this meeting to order. And I will tell you today, right here, right now, the 1:30 gavel drop is the first time today I've been on time for anything. So thank you all very much. It brings me great joy. Everybody knows they have vices and virtues. For me, it's being on time, and this job does not make that easy. So thank you for being here. Today we have a full schedule. This is our second opportunity to visit with our region schools. We did this by design. It's a really good opportunity for our committee to dive into the fine works of Emporia, Fort Hays, and Pittsburgh, and it brings me great pleasure to bring everybody up for a round two. I warned the committee to have some questions lined up for you guys when you had your first briefings and 0 week. We really took a high profile look. Sometimes we kind of drop below the clouds on some issues, but this is a real opportunity for us to dive deep into specifics. There's a lot of really great things going on a lot of universities across the state. And I felt like these three institutions needed more time. So with that, we're going to kick this off with Emporia State University and Dr. Taylor. Oh my gosh, is it Criley? Did I hit it? Oh my God, I had a lottery ticket. That's like 4 in a row. Thank you very much for being here, madam, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. We appreciate the opportunity to return and answer some of the questions you had the last time we were here with providing some additional information. Emporia State is just getting started, tip of the iceberg for what we can accomplish as we continue to build on the momentum and really understand what we're capable of with the new processes and workflows we have in place. When enrollment is strong, liquidity is healthy, campus and the community is exciting and partnering and using teamwork, life is great. And when there are periods of adversity, organizations, communities, partnerships reveal their real character. Our people rose to the moment, demonstrating resilience, loyalty, and a willingness to make difficult decisions to secure Emporia State's future. Today, we will provide more metrics and information about the things that we shared with you last time so that we can continue to move boldly forward as we build on our momentum. Our comprehensive approach to sustainability. Our goal is to be the most efficient university in Kansas. We are grateful for the capital renewal funds in which you have invested in us, and we realize you did that during our most adverse time. This chart shows how we have aligned resources, strategically divesting and demolishing underutilized space, and optimizing our campus footprint. In 2022, we carried approximately $90 million in deferred maintenance, the blue trend that you see on the graph here. One of the most powerful levers, which I mentioned last time, is our space utilization, the green trend. By reducing the square footage, we are not only addressing today's backlog, but we're permanently eliminating future liabilities for the institution and for the state. At the same time, our annual investments, which come from the state and our own university work, is the orange trend line, and that shows our disciplined stewardship. Over the past 4 years, our approach has reduced deferred maintenance by 20%, decreasing our campus footprint by 140,000 square feet, and generated more than $20 million in savings. As we move forward, we've been working on our campus master plan, and we intend to use this approach as we build the future of Emporia State. While current funding does not yet outpace the natural aging of our facilities, our results have been clear that when the state continues to invest in capital renewal, we will do the hard work it takes and use data-driven decisions to leverage and steward Kansas's assets. We will continue to stop investing in facilities that no longer align with our current or future institutional goals and educational landscape. The decisions we make today will define what the next generation of Hornet Nation and the state of Kansas inherits. Our goal is to position Emporia State to be a leader by 2050, delivering an exceptional student experience on the most lean and efficient campus possible. Over the next 20 years, we plan to reduce our footprint by an additional 300,000 square feet, representing an anticipated 40% reduction and ensuring long-term sustainability and vitality. This is currently on track with the same pace we are doing today. How? How will we do this? One region, one Emporia, one ESU. Will we create teamwork and partnerships like we have not seen in our area? We will create innovative interdisciplinary education, creating a new educational ecosystem, capitalize on our classroom utilization, continue to break down silos, centralize our support and services, provide flexible, multi-use, collaborative learning spaces, leverage our K-12 community and outreach to steward regional resources in our area, and we will digitize and modernize our workflows. We will do more with less. I spoke last time about the impact of our profit and loss statements and how we get our return on our investment. The metrics we use to facilitate our P&Ls are our credit hours per school, our estimated tuition revenue, our estimated fees, our operating expenses, personnel expenses, scholarship investment, and our current strengths and risks within the facets of the organization. We analyze those metrics in order to understand our school or college course capacity, program enrollment, growth, tuition revenue, net operating result, workforce development, business and industry needs, forecasting our strengths, and mitigating our risks of our programs. Understanding our data, sharing it transparently with the entire organization, and integrating it with our profit and loss statements has been foundational to our disciplined stewardship and decision-making. We then use that for our state and federal funding asks to go through our annual academic program review, to assess and make decisions for our enrollment and retention funnels, to improve our auxiliary performance, capitalize on our projects and plans, and develop our multi-year financial planning model. Our P&Ls go into a comprehensive program review of all of our academic programs. We are implementing a one-year annual review to help all of the university understand more than just the financial component of our programs. We have key performance metrics, accreditation requirements, which vary by discipline, our program learning outcomes, our enrollment, retention, graduation, and completion rates, our engagement and outreach on campus, in the community, and throughout the region, the P&Ls, as I've mentioned, and additional investments in our students. For too long, higher education has been data-rich, but not always interconnected. And when we have pieced all of these together, it's given us clear accountability, expectations, transparency, and consistency across our programs. It's helped us create operational efficiencies, workforce development, advance our economic impact, help us better understand our competitive and comparative analysis, and really have continuous improvement every single year to proactively make decisions and drive our strategic plan. The digital tools we have today allow us to create a digital map to piece together data dashboards across every facet of the organization. Our annual comprehensive review consolidates our data into a single actionable map at the fingertips of everyone in our organization that wants access. That is how we're getting in the driver's seat and continuing to use data, take action, and get results. Creating efficiencies over time and our organizational assessment, we're a human capital organization. We're continuously assessing our full-time equivalent workforce and have scaled it proportionally with student enrollment, whether that's decreasing or increasing with enrollment declines or meeting the demands of the current or forecasted strategy. Our team is focused on utilizing natural attrition to reduce any reduction in force in the future. Our team is focused on continuing to improve our processes around every vacant position. This discipline and allocation will allow us to do more with less and to continue to evolve as an organization through our natural attrition process in order for us to reinvest in our academic programs, our people, and our physical campus to provide the best experience for students and their families. Since 2013, we have reduced our FTE by 17%, including a 6% reduction in the past 5 years. We recognize the time that we spend and our teamwork are our most valuable assets that we have. So we've pieced everything together into a university health dashboard. This dashboard allows us to continually monitor our overall total university health. Much like tracking the stock market, like I shared last time, we will populate our strengths and they will identify as green. We'll identify minimal risk areas as yellow and high risk areas in the red. And we do that across every component of the organization for people to be able to see our financial sustainability, our operational efficiencies, our workforce development and engagement, our academic quality, our reputation and impact, and our student success. It shows how our key performance funnels move together, giving the organization a real-time view of current performance and future trajectory. Our team is in the driver's seat, and we are analyzing and taking action weekly. We use this dashboard to address our gaps, capitalize on our opportunities, avoid potential shortcomings, and make disciplined decisions based on current condition and forecasted operations. This university health dashboard will be a game changer for the university and will position us for long-term success. Our team is here to stand for additional questions that you might have on our presentation. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Doctor. This is a great opportunity for questions for ESU before we work their budget. Do we have any additional questions for her today, committee? Anybody? Representative Amix?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Doctor, it's good to see you again. When you were here a couple of weeks ago, you had talked about the elimination of debt that you all had been carrying. And I know that you had come to, well, the predecessor had come to us 24 and 25, and we made pretty major investment in the university to the tune, I think, of $9 million a year. And most of that money was going to be used for projects, paying off projects that were being paid for, if I remember right, student fees. Where student fees dropped during that time, or following those payoffs. You might, since my memory's almost gone right now, let me know what those projects were, because I want to say I had, can't remember, dormitory building or the student union or something. I don't know.
We went from 38 buildings to 35 buildings, and that includes our brand-new nursing building that we have, that we're doing a ribbon cutting for today. We did eliminate student fees and no reduction in tuition the past 2 years, and we actually restructured our fees across all the schools to make it simplified for students. So you used to pay a fee depending on what the course was, and now the students just pay a school fee every year, so that it was an overall decrease to the students by school for the fees they were paying.
Doctor, you said no reduction in tuition? No increase in tuition. Okay, thank you, thank you.
I think what you were
Hold on, ma'am.
referring to, hi, I'm Angela Wolgram.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you.
I'm Angela Wolgram. I'm CFO at Emporia State University. I think what you're referring to is the money that was given so that our students would stop paying a fee for the debt on the union, correct? And yes, we stopped that fee to our students. It's over $250 a year that they no longer pay, and we use that money to pay down that debt. We couldn't pay it down immediately, so we held the money, and we are making the yearly payments on that. So we didn't defease it. We did not defease it. So we worked with KDFA. We couldn't pay that debt off early, so the debt is still on our books, but the money you have is sitting there waiting for the yearly payments. Does that make
Anything
sense?
further, Representative Bain?
Well, I just wanted to do a follow-up to make sure that the money went to where it was supposed to go to,
Absolutely.
and that those fees
Yep.
were taken off.
And the fees are taken off. Yep, 2 years ago. Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Representative Riley.
Thank you, Doctor. So as you decrease your footprint, what is happening to those buildings? Are you selling them, or what's happening there?
We have not finished our future campus master plan with the transition of leadership, but our plan would be to demo buildings, so take 3 buildings and make 1 building in the future, as we've been doing for the past couple of, well, 5 years or so. That would be our continued plan.
Any other questions? Okay, once I start, this is it. It's the last chance. All right. I do have a few. If you could, will you explain to the committee what you consider a silo? I was reading some of your bullet points, and everybody kind of has an idea of what a silo is. Will you tell us what you mean by it in your bullet points?
It's like having 7 universities operating independently on campus, making decisions, driving action, leadership, and now we operate as one ESU where everyone's coming to the table. We've created a zero-based budget process, and that's helped us break down those silos of individual schools. So each school kind of operating on their own, and the other departments at the university operating on their own. So this is what I was allocated the year before. I'm going to ask for the same thing the next year, instead of really bringing forward what our strategies are from our strategic plan and aligning our asks from our zero-based budget to make those decisions.
Thank you. And that led into my second question. You mentioned centralizing support. Can you go into detail about that? And you kind of went over the surface there about one ESU, but explain to me with a little bit more detail what that means.
We've started taking the one-stop shop concept that you see on campuses or student success centers, where you have all of your support services and other areas on campus, bringing them together into one building, which allows you to centralize some of the operations and decrease the FTEs needed to facilitate the work. and then cascading that out to our partners. So what could that look like if we steward resources for student support in K-12 and Flint Hills and the university to create teamwork in our system?
Last question. Every university, college, institution in Kansas has several problems that are across the board, but this one, from a budgetary perspective, most acutely. Every institution is administrator heavy. Will you please go into depth over what you guys are doing at ESU to overcome this financial burden on your books? Can you tell me kind of your process? You mentioned it in your briefing, but I want some very specific things.
Really appreciate your question, being newer. So when you have a human capital organization and you have employees that are your biggest financial investment, you need to capitalize on natural attrition. So when people promote inside or outside the organization, instead of just refilling that same position, vetting those positions, creating new positions to where as your organization has evolved, as technology has evolved, as the educational landscape has changed, workforce demands, business and industry, you're not just hiring what you hired for the past 10 years, you're putting a position forward that allows you to address those. Prior to using just attrition recently, the university went through and eliminated 30 programs and positions associated with those programs. I don't know of a university that ever wants to go through a reduction in force. And so if institutions can work relentlessly to use natural attrition, then you can avoid having to do the reduction in force. And Emporia State hopes to never have to go through the reduction in force again.
Thank you, Doctor. I really appreciate you coming back in. I think the context that you guys are providing is crucial for our committee. I will charge you $1. Representative Haskins.
It's a good question, Mr. Chair, but I'm happy to give you $1. So it looks here like you're the executive vice president of enrollment management, and you pulled the short straw, and now you're the interim president. Congratulations. We've had a really good explanation, and with an MBA teaching business, I'm all into what you're saying. I wanted to give you an opportunity with your enrollment management background. Tell us how you sell the university to students in reference to all the changes, all the headaches, everything. Give us some qualitative, stories or feedback to help us with this.
We need some help to help change the reputation and brand of Emporia State University. And I mentioned earlier our people. You learn a lot about the character and loyalty of people when you go through difficult times. And we have more momentum on campus. We have our nursing ribbon cutting today. And when everyone comes to campus, the governor, our alumni, our current students, faculty, staff, it's just a different feeling. And that's going to speak more to a prospective student and family than anything I write in a brochure. Most students will say, I just felt it when I was on campus that day. The success stories of our students and our graduates will continue to help us build on the momentum, and that's how we will achieve retention and graduation. But more importantly, in our strategic plan, we want to build better pipelines and pathways so that we can break the averages that I talked about when I was here earlier. Students and families are struggling with investing in higher education, whether you have Emporia State's narrative or not. How do we get better as a regional system, as state universities, and help our students be successful wherever they choose to go to school so that they're leaving with a credential to help with our workforce shortages and not with debt and no ability to have upward mobility in their future?
All right, thank you, ma'am. Next up, we've got
Thank you.
Fort Hays State University, Dr. Tisa Mason, President. Welcome to committee, ma'am.
Chairman Turk and members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunities to stand before you again. When I spoke with you last, we discussed Fort Hays State University's identity as a resilient, fiscally conservative institution that serves as a primary engine for rural Kansas. As a brief reminder, our efficiency is not a reaction to current budget. It's a core strategic advantage that we pass directly to students in the state of Kansas. For decades, we have been committed to operational efficiency by managing our overhead. Our wind energy, longstanding peak shaving practices, and thermal ice storage are examples. This operational discipline is mirrored in our academic delivery. We consistently maintain the lowest cost to produce a student credit hour among the Kansas public universities. We've always operated with a lean mindset, ensuring every dollar of state philanthropic and tuition investment is maximized. We have longstanding robust academic program and tenure review processes. Some of our newest academic programs include our fraud investigation program, criminalistics curricula, and religious and education community engagement studies. These stem directly from collaborating across the university in alignment with workforce needs. And no new faculty positions were needed for those programs. New careers for our students and communities were created. We also eliminated about a dozen academic programs in the recent past, not to make the budget balance, but because it did not make financial sense to continue them. And by the way, like Emporia State, although I didn't mention in my last testimony, we also use profit and loss statements for program departments all the way down to the course level. As I said at the start, our efficiency is not a reaction to budget constraints. It's a core strategic advantage that we pass directly on to our students. This is how we continue to offer the lowest tuition in the state, proving that efficiency and high-level outcomes can go hand in hand. While our mission begins in the classroom, it does not end there. We recognize that for Kansas to thrive, we must do more than just graduate students. We must actively build ecosystems where they will work, live, and lead. We are no longer just an education provider. We are a workforce partner. To dive deeper into the mechanics of how we're doing this, I'd like to introduce our Vice President for Economic and Workforce Development, Mr. Ben Shears.
Welcome to committee, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you all this afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to stand here and present to you. Ben Shears, I'm the Vice President for Economic and Workforce Development here at Fort Hays State University. Prior to that, just a little bit of context, served 9 years prior to this position as the president at Northwest Tech, now Fort Hays Tech Northwest in Goodland. Prior to that was a small business owner back in the day. And so some of the stuff and some of the items we're going to talk a little bit about today are somewhat informed on and by some of those experiences. You'll find that your slides are going to be content light because I tend to be a context heavy kind of guy. So we'll go ahead and move to the next one. What we're going to talk about a little bit today is some of the change that's been happening with Fort Hays State and my position in specific. This particular position was created as a new front door for the university. One of the things that we wanted to be able to do as an institution is to be front-facing, to be out in the community, working and engaging with business and industry. One of the things that higher education as a whole, especially universities across the country, are pigeonholed for, maybe rightfully so in some cases, as being kind of an ivory tower. We're not really that way at Fort Hays, but we needed to also figure out some ways in which we could bring some of the assets that we have as an institution out into our communities. So in this role, Vice President of Workforce Development or Workforce and Economic Development, I get a little bit of both worlds. So we're going to be talking a little bit about work that we do with new business creation, business retention, business expansion, and then doing what we can to meet the needs of the workforce. This position is designed, my role is designed to be an empty office. Dr. Mason made no qualms about that when she created this position and hired me for it. I don't want you in the office, that's what she said. And so most of my time, the majority of my time is spent out across the 67 counties that Fort Hays State serves. So I'm a road warrior, is basically what I am in essence. My role is also to bring those insights that we hear back to campus. We have a lot of business and industry across the service area that we work with. And the boots on the ground folks that we work the most closely with are going to be the economic development. It's going to be the chambers. It's going to be the folks that are the boots on the ground in the communities, hearing what's going on, and then working with us to leverage our resources to help. The most important thing I can say, and this is the best way I can kind of encapsulate this, is we want to be able to provide out of my office a concierge service to business and industry. And I'll share a few examples of that we've already been able to do in the last few months here in just a moment. Two significant events happened in 1902, one of which, Fort Hays State University was created. And coincidentally, that was also the advent of the modern air conditioner. So the air conditioner was created then. So you say, what in the world does air conditioning have to do with this presentation today? Prior to that, I want you to think back to kind of that turn of the century, and honestly, until air conditioners got into most homes, until about the 1930s or 40s, or maybe a little bit later, where were the majority of conversations happening? There was a whole lot on the front porch. And so what would happen is you'd walk down the street, you needed to visit somebody, you knock on the door, you sit outside, you grab a cup of lemonade or a cup of tea, and you sit and you have a conversation. Once that air conditioner was created, everybody moved indoors, and those conversations on the front porch stopped. My job is to be the front door and the front porch for the university. And so that's the work that we're doing, kind of leaning into that. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be the trail markers. It's important to have a plan. It's important to have directions. We're in western Kansas, so you got to talk about trail markers when we talk about all the trails that run west through the western half of the state. These are the trail markers that we created specific for the work that we're doing out of my area. So we're going to drive regional prosperity. That's a big piece. There's a lot of conversation happening around rural Kansas and urban flight and students and young people moving out of the region. That's the case in some places. That's not the case in all places. And one of the pieces we can do within this is to be able to help keep young people and connect them with opportunities that exist out there, because they're there. We just got to connect them to them. Strengthen the talent pipeline. The number one thing that I hear from economic development officers, from the businesses that I talk with, is I need talent. Small rural communities, small businesses can't expand if they don't have good talent. And so that's probably the number one thing that I hear the most often. So we got to work to address that. And that involves keeping the students that come through Fort Hays State University in western Kansas if we can do it. Keep them in Kansas next and do the best that we can to keep them in the Kansas economy. Next is fuel innovation and enterprise. We have a lot of resources at the university, so we need to bring those resources to bear where we can to be able to help some of the businesses out that need it. Accelerate institutional impact. That one, again, kind of leans into all of this, which is, we need to make a difference and make our work. Secure resources for strategic growth. This is going to be leaning in a little bit with securing federal grant resources, working with private foundations. We have a lot of really great supporters within the state, particularly in our region of the state with the Dangy Hansen Foundation, the Patterson Family Foundation that supports a lot of rural work. So leaning in with those partners, but it's got to be a two-way conversation. It can't just be what we need. It's got to be something where it fits what their needs are with our needs, and then we see where the magic happens. And the last is partner for stronger communities. That's the core of what we're about. So, stories from Main Street. So I'm going to give you a couple practical examples. When it was announced, I think it was February, March, this time a little bit later last year, that I was going to be coming into this role. Craig Poe, who was the CEO of High Plains Mental Health, reached out to me and he said, Ben, I hear you're taking this position and I need your help. And I said, okay, what can I do? I'm still in Goodland at this point in time, still running the tech college. He said, we are getting ready to launch the Crisis Intervention Center, which is the CIC in Hays. It's an expansion of mental health opportunities that they're doing. If you're not familiar with High Plains Mental Health, they are one of the largest square miles, not maybe people, but square miles as far as the coverage in the state of Kansas. They have a huge swath of people they support. And we need employees. We need talent. And I said, well, how many do you need and how soon do you need them? He said, I need 30 employees. Keep in mind, this is March. I need 30 employees and I need them by November. And I said, okay. I said, well, we'll get after it and we'll do the best we can and we'll see if we can lean in and help you. So we get to town and their timeline has changed, it's backed up just a little bit. They're getting close to launching the CIC now. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a big deal to address some of the mental health needs in western Kansas. But we sat down and we brought him to campus. There's kind of this perception again with higher education that faculty are over here and workforce is over here. Our faculty were ready to be at the table. They jumped in. I said, hey, we got a business that wants to come to campus. We want to sit down. We want to schedule a conversation and see what we can do to help. So we had in our boardroom a whole table full of faculty and Craig, with High Plains Mental Health. And he was sitting there and he said, here's what I need. We talked about the whole life cycle of what he was looking at. They needed entry-level positions, 18 years old, with a little bit of training to help with intake, to help with some of the work that they do that's fairly entry-level work, all the way through clinicians, all the way through doctorate positions. So for the course of about 2 hours, we worked through the whole cycle. We had one of our affiliate partners, which is Fort Hays Tech North Central, that's based in Beloit and Hayes. We brought them to the table for part of that conversation as well, because we didn't know where it was going to go. And so they were sitting at the table as well. And out of that conversation, we took a look, because there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. We looked at a new program that's been up at WSU Tech in Wichita, which is a mental health technician program. It's a 2-year associate's degree. Gives those students the opportunity within the first year that they're in the program to go to work, to continue their education if they desire to, and continue to upskill and credential. So Fort Hays Tech North Central is literally today meeting with business and industry partners as they're beginning the process of standing that up. We're being very intentional with that pathway in our partnership to ensure that the students that go through that route not only are employable while they're going through the program, but also have a pathway to the university if they so choose. That route isn't for everybody. And honestly, the workforce needs students who are willing to get the education they need and go straight to work. So we got to work to see how we balance that out. The next one was Agility Health. Some of you may have already heard about this particular piece. So Agility used to be Sizewise. It's a local health manufacturing company out there that make hospital beds. And they got some pretty cutting edge stuff. I've never been excited about hospital beds until I toured their facility. They're doing some really good work, but they were getting attracted to the East Coast. And so Department of Commerce reached out, our local Grow Hayes Economic Development reached out and said, we need the university at the table. We need to sit down and have a conversation. So we did, and we sat down, and they said, we have a package, incentive package from the east side of the country. You've got 2 weeks to put your best package on the table that you can. If you know much about economic development, 2 weeks is pretty tight. We got together, we knocked heads, we worked with Commerce, we worked locally, worked with our elected officials in town. We put a compensation, or not a compensation, but a total package together. Our part of it was about talent. Our part of it was about ongoing professional development. Our part was about how do I get technical college students from our partner institutions to the table to tour their manufacturing opportunities so we can keep them in the region. So 2.5 weeks later, they let us know they were going to stay. And so they're in the area we're working in. They're looking to expand. They're 90 employees right now in Ellis County. And in rural Kansas, a 90 employer is a pretty big deal. That would have been a traumatic loss for our community. They are looking to grow to 150 over the next 5 years. They've purchased the land now. They have a new facility going in that they're going to break ground on relatively soon, and we got to be a part of that. So that's what it's about for us, is being at the table. Where can we plug in? I'm going to mention just a really brief piece on this. I'm concerned about rural banking. This is a me thing. This is a me, former business owner person. I'm concerned that as we see more and more bank consolidation happening across the country, mostly in rural areas, if I'm a small business operator, and I used to be, I could walk in and I could shake the hand of my lender and sit down and have a conversation, and 10 minutes later I was out the door. In my case, that was property. Much to my wife's chagrin, I could go in and out in 10 minutes and I'd have everything lined up to get a new piece of rental property. Those are the relationships that are so important in rural America. And so as we see this consolidation beginning to happen more and more, we're starting to see banking deserts crop up. And so one of the things we're working to do with the Robbins Banking Institute is we have a short-term certificate. What I'm really looking for is I'm looking for the folks like my mom, who was worked in banking her entire life, and she worked as a teller, and she worked into a couple positions just above that. Always wanted the chance to jump up and move up, but higher education was not a path she chose. And so we're looking for how can we take those folks who have a desire to move up in the banking industry, give them a little bit of a boost, and help them get where they want to go. So we're working on that. Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. I'll speed this up here a little bit. If you're not familiar with YEC, it's a program, Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge, offered by Network Kansas. Fantastic program. And what they do is they take all these small communities across the state, and large as well, but you have students that then compete for opportunities to go to the state YEC championship. And these are young entrepreneurs in our local communities that are excited about the opportunities and ideas that they have and what they want to bring to bear. So we have now plugged in with that. We hosted it this year on our campus, which we were really excited about. We got an opportunity to see an auditorium full of students. We had our entrepreneurship students there walking the table, talking with folks, plugging in with the students. We had our faculty that were there talking with the students, recruiting those students. And out of that development of that relationship, we're now working with Network Kansas, we're getting ready to launch on April 7th. This will be the first time that this has been done, the Western Kansas Wild Card. And so we're going to take students from across Western Kansas that did not win their local YEC, but they still feel like they got something to prove. And we're going to give them a second wild card shot at Fort Hays. We're going to take 60 business applications in there and see what we can do, and then plug them into campus while they're there. And of course, we have an entrepreneurship program, which we're really excited to see where that's going to begin to go from here. Hitting the highway, as I mentioned, my job is to be outward facing and out and about. So areas visited, these are some of the ones in the fall that have been around at, and more intentional visits: Dodge City, Garden City, Goodland, Hayes, and Norton. Coming up here, we've already leaned in on a few of these, but Beloit, Larned, Liberal, Great Bend, and a whole lot more. And so again, I'm out and about all across. There's a phrase that I love. I had a former college president that used to be my supervisor. I brought in a really great idea one day for some new recruiting. This is back when Representative Haskins and I were both younger and involved in admissions. And it was when text messaging and email blasting and all of these kinds of things were really starting to hit. And I brought it into the president and I said, I want to do this thing. And he looked at me and he said, he entertained me for a few minutes. And he said, I appreciate that you want to bring all this stuff in here. He said, but at the end of the day, nothing replaces a handshake. So we're not going to move the needle at Fort Hays State if I'm sitting in my office. And so again, we're out and about. Beyond Main Street, we'll start to land this plane here. I want to mention a couple things with this. Center on Rural Innovation. I'm going to give a shout out to our partners back here at Pittsburgh State who are also part of the Corey Network. We just had our kickoff call this week. This was a competitive process to get into the Rural Innovators Network, into Corey for rural innovation. And basically what this is it's Corey is a national organization that is really focused on how do we close the gap in tech sector jobs in rural areas. Most of the tech sector jobs are going to larger urban areas. How do we address that in smaller rural communities? So we're in it. We got in, we competed, and in a very competitive process, and we're in. So we're excited to get to work with our friends at Pitt State and 3 other communities across the state of Kansas as we really lean in on that. Patterson Family Foundation funded that initiative. So we're excited to do that. And we're going to focus really on leveraging the local folks that we have in our market. We have some really great IT-related work happening. So one of those things from an economic development standpoint is how do I take existing businesses that we have who are poised to grow, and how do we help resource them? How do we help provide them assets to be able to get going where they need to go? And sometimes those assets are people. 911 communicators. We have a Forge website that I'll talk about briefly, but it's an initiative that came out of the Department of Commerce with some grant dollars. We launched Forge Kansas. And out of that, a contact came here just a couple weeks ago. And this was from a rural 911 communicator. So somebody working dispatch who runs that. She's involved with the state association. She said, we have 7 positions for 911 communicators in our office. I have currently 3 of those empty, with 2 of those that have been empty for over a year. She said, I'm drowning. What can you do to help? So we sat down and we got in contact and we had a conversation and we started working through what we can do to be able to add some short-term certification, because we identified, you don't need a bachelor's degree to lean in on this field. You might just need a couple classes or even one class that encapsulates everything. Where you deal with crisis management, you got to keep calm, you got to keep other people calm, right? That helps with reading maps. You got to be able to know how to read a map when you're doing that kind of work. And so we're working together right now across them and also state association to see what we can do to impact that. Kansas SBDC. So Fort Hays is coming up on 30 years as the lead center. So that celebration actually will be later on this spring. But Kansas SBDC is also undergoing some changes. So as of about 21 days ago, KSBDC has now slid into my area. And so I'm excited to be working with Dan Laura and his team and other partners that we have across the state with KSBDC. It's an incredible organization that's focused on small business, and that's where my heart's at. And so I'm really excited to be able to work with them and be able to see what resources we can continue to bring to bear. Next one here, we're going to talk about opportunities ahead. Workforce Pell. If you're not familiar with Workforce Pell, it's a new Pell grant that's launching, focused on very short-term certifications, and it could be credit, it could be non-credit. It's going to be a game changer, particularly for the 2-year colleges, but it also gives universities an opportunity in that space to play as well, from the perspective of what kinds of opportunities can we bring to bear that are short-term. Registered apprenticeships. I'm sure you all have heard about the state registered apprenticeships and the work that's happening here in the state of Kansas. That's a piece we need to lean in on a little harder. That's a piece that we're working on. So we have some conversations happening in that space, and we have some really unique opportunities that my good friend Wesley back here actually is working with one of our technical colleges in our partnership. We're short a plumber. I think we've been advertised for that plumber position for a year. Just got filled last week. So an electrician and a plumbing position that we're looking at, that we're working on to be able to bring one of the students for each of those spots from the technical college in-house to the university where they can earn and learn while they finish up their degree. So good opportunities there. Stronger data collection. So here's where I'm at. I'll go on a little bit of a rant for this one for a very short second. And that is when it comes to tracking data, when it comes to especially workforce and economic development data, that is a challenge amongst higher ed. We know that we're involved in economic development and we know that we're involved in workforce development. We've got to quantify it better, just the reality of it. When we talk about new businesses that are developed or how much capital investment came through, we all just got done finishing up our Pillar 3 report, which is a report for economic development for the Kansas border regions, and finding where we have common and accurate data. I don't want to record something if Fort Hays State didn't have a hand in it. If we're going to record jobs created, Fort Hays State needs to be at the table. We're not going to claim credit for something we didn't do. And so those kinds of things, strengthening those data components, I think is important statewide. I think that's a statewide initiative there. And we're working on it in the Board of Regents. That's a conversation we're having amongst our group. Stronger verifiable outcomes, again, kind of fits with that data. We need to be able to validate what we say we're doing. And I think the data is going to speak to that and the stories that we're going to tell that are backed by data. And then align with local economic development. These are our boots on the ground. These are the people that are in the communities and know what those opportunities are, and we need to align stronger with them. Last of mine, and I'm going to wind down here. Next slide. Building local connections, that's really the core of what we're about. We've got to be out and about. We're in the communities, we're building those connections, we're having those conversations, and we have a ton of resources at the university that we can bring to bear to be able to help communities out. The affiliation workforce partners. I've got two great counterparts at each of the technical colleges that are working now in specifically workforce development space, that are working specifically in economic development related activities. We're blasting phone, text messages back and forth all the time, ensuring that we're communicating about common employers that we're working with. And we're ensuring that if there's a need from the university, we can bring it to bear. If there's a need that I need from the technical colleges to bring to bear, we're doing it. So that's kind of exciting there. And then the Forge Kansas website, which is just a quick note on that. And with that, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to bring Dr. Mason back up.
Thank you, Ben.
To conclude, I'll highlight a milestone that validates our strategy, our recent upgrade to an A1 stable rating from Moody's Investor Service. Moody's is a global independent agency that provides an objective assessment of financial health. In a climate where higher education institutions are seeing their outlooks downgraded, Moody has moved Fort Hays State in the opposite direction. Moody's doesn't just look at our marketing, they look at our math. This upgrade signals external confidence that our strategic initiatives are effectively managing risks while building capacity. Among our strengths is our success in attracting students across on-campus, online, and international markets, protecting from regional demographic shifts. These diversified revenues allowed us to maintain a modest financial leverage. Our credit readiness is anchored by the steady support of the state of Kansas, and I want to thank you all for that. This is a key indicator that you have a reliable partner in Fort Hays State University, one that manages every dollar of state investment with a high level of fiscal stewardship. Chairman Turk and members of the committee, this rating proves that a university can be the lowest cost provided while remaining fiscally stable. It is evidence that our lean mindset works. So thank you very much. I stand for questions.
Thank you again, Dr. Mason, for being here. Ben, it was great to meet you. Really good opportunity to hear about what you have going on out there. You know, and I'm gonna speak just briefly before I go to Representative Haskins' first question. You know, Kansas is so darn big. We're big. We forget how big we are. You know, 2.9 million people. Yeah, but we are a lot of land. And I've been on the east side of the state for my entire life when I've been in the state. and you just really have to dive in and research what is going on on all in all the corners of our central little rectangle, right? I mean, and what you guys have going on out there is pretty amazing. And I'm so glad we've had the opportunity to hear from you twice and to hear all the things that you guys have going on out there. Now, for committee, hopefully you gathered all of your questions, and we're going to lead off with Representative Haskins. I knew he would go first.
It's not very often, but I secretly, but not publicly, agree with the chair here, and I want to do that. It's like, I wondered what this presentation was going to be about since we heard you before session, and what a nice compliment. I mean, just a very nice job. And I like the focus of that. And you're going to get off the hook. And if I can talk to your vice president that just gave a presentation, that would be fantastic.
That would be great for me. I also
Yeah.
like to, some people want to know what we're doing with the dollars that we're getting from the state, the regional dollars. Ben's position was created by those dollars.
Thank And I will say before he gets up there that Ben and I can obviously say we know each other when. And I've been waiting 20 years to ask you some questions on the mic and on the record. No, fantastic job on that. I'm curious, you give us a lot of plans. How do you measure your success? And in reference to student success and economic impact, what is the impact that you have with your job and with the work that you do?
Okay. Acknowledging that, as Representative Chair Turk said, that he was just got here on time for the first meeting of the day. I'm going to try not to expound too much on this, but I'll give you a very short story. Growing up, I listened to my dad. He's a retired city worker, and one of the things that I listened to over the whole duration of my life, my dad always wanted to run a concrete business. Always wanted to run it. I heard that from the time I was knee high until he retired. And I asked him about that a while back. I said, why didn't you ever open that business? And he said, I was scared to make the jump and I didn't know how to run a business, right? So when we talk about measuring success in this endeavor, that's one of the lenses that I look through. Certainly the metrics that I talked about earlier, investment, jobs created, all of those kinds of things. But a real practical example, if you look at the community of Atwood, Kansas, okay? If you're not familiar with the story of Atwood, you go back 10, 12 years ago, and they had shrunk their bus routes from buses down to SUVs. Surefire Ag, now SurePoint, was launched. So a precision ag company in Atwood, Kansas that has exploded, I think has been purchased by John Deere, if I'm not mistaken at this point, has reshaped the entire community, and they're back out of SUVs and running buses again. So when we can do the level of attraction, and I'm not talking about big, and I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm not talking about big attractions. I'm talking about small business development. I'm talking about when we have, I would measure success when we have that local automotive shop that has a 60-year-old owner that's probably going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, and we can help place an automotive student in that job to take that over, and they can mentor for 3 or 4 years before they take it on. That's a success to me. When we have a business that needs to expand, and man, we need them to expand in our market, in our area, and they have that opportunity because we can do something with talent, or we can find them a bigger location, or whatever resources we can find for them, that's a win. So it's in smaller numbers in our rural communities in Western Kansas, but they are no less significant.
No, it is, and that's where you begin at. And my last question is, I see that you're all but dissertation on your doctorate degree. And I was wondering, what institution are you getting that doctorate degree from?
I was taking that through Baker University.
What, Baker University?
I appreciate you calling this out on
Oh, yeah.
testimony.
Well, I know somebody at Baker. Maybe we
Yeah,
can
this is
follow
true.
up.
This is
All right.
true. Yes.
President Mason, Ben has been this way so the whole time I've known him, and you've got a good one there. So thank you very much. Great
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Dr. Mason. I really appreciated Ben's presentation, your presentation. A lot of energy at 2:20 in the afternoon, I can tell you that. I couldn't help but notice that the State Budget Committee's recommendation did not include a $340,000 amount, reappropriation funding for the professional workforce development. What effect does that have on the programs that you and Ben have talked about?
So Ben and our folks in professional and continuing education are working hand in hand. Some of those short-term certificates may come through them, especially the ones that are not going to be for credit as well. So it's important. And just when I got back to campus, I understood that I wasn't really clear with Representative Haskins' questions. It's a multiplier, not a divider. So it's 750 times 5 years. And so since we were scaling it up, we knew that we had 5 years, and after that, the money is gone. We sold it. We believe in it as a make it or break it. We think that there's a great opportunity here, and we needed infrastructure. So when we intentionally held back monies for very specific strategies as we grew, it just got caught up in the big sweep. And so it's unfortunate, and we are very hopeful that people will support us in getting it back so we can have our full 5 years of money to prove and stand up an entity that's going to impact rural Kansas and be profitable and change lives.
I appreciate, if I could, Mr. Chair, I appreciate all the work that all of you are doing and the help for so many people in Western Kansas. Thank you very much.
Welcome. And
Representative, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we spent the summer actually through our professional and continuing education, we brought the EcoDevo teams from Goodland, Beloit, and Hayes to teach business retention and succession strategies. So it was just another great example of how we're coming together to try to make an impact and give skill sets to folks to keep our rural communities operating.
Representative Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could speak to your assistant guy, whatever, however you would call him. Ben, thank you, Mr. Haskins. So, and again, I guess this is also, addressed to the president. You guys, very impressive as far as, the culture of efficiency and doing well with Moody's and just some of the things you've done. I mean, that's very, Fort Hays does have a good reputation for that. This whole emphasis on workforce development and such, you sound like a 2-year college. It sounds like HCC. It just sounds like, is it not the case that universities are kind of, going down market? I'm kind of concerned about just kind of overlap and, you're just kind of reinventing the wheel that's already out there with Colby or Dodge City, Garden City, the whole shebang. So what's your thoughts on that?
No, I appreciate that. So I would counter and just say that, well, I sound like a 2-year guy because I spent 14 years at Cali County Community College, and then I spent 10 years out almost in Goodland. So I've been in the 2-year sector for a pretty good stretch. And matter of fact, it's our 2-year college partners who are probably some of our greatest assets. And I'll give you a really good case in point with regard to construction. We all know across the state there is a construction need. No doubt about it. And we need students that are going to come through the 2-year route and go directly to work. We also have an opportunity, Pittsburgh State, I'm going to give you guys a shout out again, and Fort Hays, both have construction management programs as well. And so when we have students that are a hot runner at a 2-year college that want to become construction managers, that's a bachelor's degree level. We need those kinds of students. And so be able to build those pathways, I think, is really, really important for us. Garden City Community College, fantastic institution in our neck of the woods, in strong partnership with Fort Hays. They just launched a construction program in their institution. One of the conversations that came up when I was meeting with local economic development, I said, what's the number one thing you need from us? And they said, we need a construction management pathway from Garden City Community College to Fort Hays State University. And I said, okay, expound on that a little bit more. And they said, we need the developers that are on the east side of the state to be setting up shop on the west side of the state. And to be able to make that happen, we have to have students out of the 2-year route and out of the 4-year route being able to address that. One of the things Dr. Mason mentioned earlier on during her presentation was, again, the trimming down of programs that just don't fit. That's an important piece of the work that we're doing out there too. So when you see the areas where we're seeing the most growth, social work, psychology, allied health and nursing, construction management, that's where our growth is at. And so when we then go back and look to see what programs from the fiscal standpoint just aren't cutting it, those are the conversations that we get to then have as an administrative team on what we do next. If that helps. Yeah. Great.
All right, we have time for one more question. Representative Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You just answered my question, so I'm fine.
No, you do not get it. All right. Thank you very much for making the trip up to see us today. I'll give you the final word. My committee beat you guys up enough. You don't need to hear from me, but I'll give you the final word, Doctor.
I just want to say thank you. What you're doing here matters, and it matters a lot to rural Kansas. And we appreciate all the support that you've given us each year. And we are working with the grit and the resilience our university is known for to help improve lives. And we want to say thanks for your partnership. And I hope that we can continue to partner into the future.
All right. To wrap up this show today, we have Dr. Thomas Newsom, President, Pittsburgh State University. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Get set up here real quick. So I just got one additional piece of it. So I want to just start by echoing what President Riley said, and that is thank you so much for the work that you do. It is important to our region. It's important to Kansas. And so last time I was here, I was a rookie. It was my first time, and I think you probably took it a little easy on me because it was my first time, Chair Turk and Vice Chair Sweeley and members of the committee. So I brought reinforcements. I brought my Vice President for Administrative and Finance, our CFO Doug Ball, back with me, who was here last time. I've also brought our Vice President and Provost, Susan Bond, so she's in the room. So if there are harder questions or more difficult questions, I'm going to refer to them. But I have just a quick kind of presentation, and some of it may be repetitive from the last time that I spoke to you, but I think it's important, and I'm probably going to take it from a little different angle than the last time that we talked. So I first want to just mention a few things that are follow-ups from the last time that we met, and that is you asked a couple of questions. One question about academic portfolio management, academic program review. And so I've passed out this piece of information, this collateral material that we just put together for you and wanted to let you know that update in terms of that, Chairman Turk, is that since 2009, Pitt State, through academic program review, has eliminated 98 academic pathways, including majors, minors, emphasis, and certificates. 42 of those eliminations have happened just since 2020, and that includes 17 majors, 3 minors, 21 emphases across undergraduate and graduate programs, and 1 certificate. And we did that intentionally. We did that with a plan and a strategy, and that was basically to become more workforce and data-driven from our institution. On the back side of that page is actually our process for program review, and we have a schedule or a calendar in terms of when we do program reviews, how often they happen, when they happen an occasion. And we have a significant number of academic reviews. In fact, all majors at Pittsburgh State will go under academic review this calendar year and between now and 2027. And we anticipate that will lead us down the path of some more reductions or possibly mergers or collaboration between programs to eliminate some of those programs that are not serving our institution and our state well. That bullet points there underneath workforce and data-driven strategy, that really is kind of the philosophy and the emphasis of how those things come about. The other thing is you ask about enrollment, and can give you a quick enrollment update. As I spoke in the fall, we were up just almost 3%, 11% in terms of our freshman enrollment, largest freshman class since 2017. We have more students living in Pittsburgh, Kansas in our residence halls than we've had since 2017. And the residence halls are quite frankly full. And we'll be excited to talk about one of the projects we've got that I've talked about before that's going to bring some more capacity to those halls in the fall. We also, as of yesterday, are seeing about 3% enrollment increase with our spring class, which just sat Monday. We will have a final census in a few weeks when we hit 20th day, but our freshman class from spring to spring is actually up again. and our overall enrollment's up. We're seeing some trends in terms of some graduate enrollment that's coming back up, and then we're also seeing some trends in terms of some students from abroad that have come to Pittsburgh State that we saw decreases in enrollment in the fall. We're actually seeing some trends where that's starting to move very, very slowly back, at least flat or in the other direction. So wanted to share that with you. So we are focused at Pitt State on, did I push the right button? On being there we go, on being an economic engine for Southeast Kansas. We serve a vital economic role in the prosperity of our region and our state, and we want affordable workforce aligned academic programs that are really based in community investment, support small businesses and industry, partnerships that drive and create job creation and growth throughout our state and our region. We do that through those 4 pillars of growth, and that is academic and industry alignment, active and economic development, community investment and business support, and then partnerships that drive innovation and opportunity. As my 2 colleagues at Emporia and Fort Hays talked about, I think that all 3 of us, in terms of the regional institutions in the state of Kansas, and along with our partner in Washburn, we are all on the same page in terms of trying to drive economic growth and prosperity for the state of Kansas. Did put in another slide that I think is important, and that is the idea of why economic development in our state really matters. And we are located in Southeast Kansas, which is one of the most impoverished parts of our state, impoverished parts of our region. The poverty level in our part of the state, and specifically Crawford County and some of those surrounding counties of us, is actually higher than it is throughout the state. That leads to illiteracy and other economic challenges for families. And why this is important is because that is probably the core of our mission. And Representative Haskins, back to a question you asked earlier about how we truly measure our success as an institution, is that we measure our success in the fact that part of our role is to do things and to have a culture and an intentionality strategically to break the cycle of poverty, to do what we can to break the cycle of poverty. And that includes, making sure that we forward our literacy programs so that students can learn to read early, because there's a lot of data that says that reading, quite frankly, and your level of reading and staying on track with your level of reading in K through 12 schools is a big indicator of whether or not you are going to have the ability to break the cycle of poverty and the generational cycle of poverty. We talk a lot at Pittsburgh State about being an institution that is transformational instead of transactional. And we think that that is really the basis for what drives us to be this engine that breaks the cycle of poverty and provides for the future of Kansans. We think this success starts with access. And there are some real big pieces in terms of what drives access to Pittsburgh State and regional university, and that's investments that you make that we are so grateful and thankful for. The investments of the state taxpayers make, and that our cities and our counties and our boosters and our friends make in our institution. And that is investments that drive some things like student success. We have a really robust student success initiative and student success center at Pittsburgh State University. Much of what my colleague talked about earlier, a one-stop shop that really understands that students get regular one-on-one support so that they can be successful at our institution. We've invested in software that will monitor that will help us make it something that we can rely on, a piece of technology to give us early alerts and early warnings for students who are having difficulty in terms of progress toward, quite frankly, just finishing the week, finishing the semester, and then ultimately finishing their degree at Pittsburgh State. We look at that student success initiative from a standpoint of being a student-ready institution, and that is a different mindset than historically higher education institutions have approached. They have approached the transactional relationship with their students as asking the question, are the students ready for college? And we want to shift that paradigm. We want to flip it on its edge and say, are we a college that is ready for our students? Are we a college that is prepared to understand that students come from different places? They come from different frames of reference. They come from different perception of what college should be and what college success looks like. And we need to be an institution that is ready to meet those students where they are and be student ready. We also have been able to, through generous support from, again, our donors and our friends in the state, and our taxpayers, expand our financial aid opportunities at Pittsburgh State University. We have what's called the Great Gorilla Scholarship Program. And I would say that there's a big piece of how you can help us be better to serve Kansans, and that is to continue to support scholarship programs for students. And the Great Gorilla Program is one that automatically awards scholarships to students based on GPA and ACT score. We think that that scholarship program really was the catalyst for the fall enrollment increase that we saw, again, almost 11% in our freshman class. And we're seeing 34% growth today in applications for the fall in terms of new freshmen at Pittsburgh State than we saw same time last year. As of last week, we had 3,630 fall applications for new freshmen, as opposed to the 2,700 that we had last year. So significant growth there. And we think that that support for scholarships, that support for the Great Gorilla is very important in terms of driving that. We also think that our region is our classroom, and that together with industry partners, we can expand internship opportunities. We can expand the student experience in a way that provides them some opportunities to live and learn in applied learning situations where they can be prepared to go out there in the industry and be successful. A couple examples of that is the Access Pitt State strategic initiative that we rolled out to our faculty and staff, I guess 2 weeks ago tomorrow, or 2 weeks prior to tomorrow, 2 weeks, Friday before last. And we've gotten great response from that, from our faculty and staff in terms of embracing that. And that is a program that will allow us to be better partners with everyone so that they can access the capacity and the resources at our university. Also, that associate's program that was introduced at Pittsburgh State a year or so ago through Dr. Shipp, and with significant help from the Kansas Legislature, to award associate degrees to every bachelor's degree seeking student at Pittsburgh State once they reach the level of credits they need to get an associate's degree, has been very, very important. We know that students have to maybe stop out, or their life gets in the way, or financial difficulties come their way, or there may be reasons that they just cannot complete in the 4 years or the time period that they anticipated. And for them to be able to walk away from our institution with something very tangible in their hand that they can go out and help make their lives better is so important. Anecdotal stories that we're receiving from that program have been phenomenal. We awarded 333 associate degrees, I believe, in the fall. Haven't gotten the number yet for the spring, but anecdotally, we're hearing stories of students who, quite frankly, didn't know that was going to happen. They're working in a part-time job or even a full-time job. They get that associate's degree, they take it to their employer, and the next day they come back saying, yeah, I took that to my employer, and my employer gave me a $10 or $15 an hour raise because of that associate's degree. Vicki and I, my wife, were at a luncheon right after we got to Pittsburgh State, and we were meeting with some ladies in our community who get together as a social club, and we were talking about this program. And one of the ladies raised her hand and says, Dr. Newsom, that makes sense now, because a few weeks ago, I got a letter from Pittsburgh State and it had an associate's degree in it. And she said it was awesome, because she said, I didn't really know what it was, so I showed the letter to my daughter, and my daughter got all excited. And then she showed the letter to my grandkids, and my grandkids got all excited. And then they had a little party for me, and we had a little event to celebrate my degree. And now I can tell my grandchildren that I am a college graduate. And that's just the things that we need to do, again, to make people's lives better through education. So again, success starts with access. Pittsburgh State was recently named one of only 33 universities in the country, and proud to say the only university in Kansas as an opportunity college or university designation from the Carnegie Foundation. And that dedication, that designation says that we have higher than average student access rates in terms of the scholarships that we give and the financial aid that we make available for students. And again, very, very important in order to have students that have the opportunity to be successful at our institution, and higher than average earnings when students leave us. And you have to have both of those designations to be designated as an opportunity college by the Carnegie County Foundation, along with the activity of research at your university. So we're really, really, really proud of that. We know that efficiencies will drive benefits for students. And we're doing things at Pittsburgh State to drive efficiencies. And these are just three of those examples of those things that we're doing at our institution. The first is a partnership that Pittsburgh State entered into a year or so ago with the Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas. Prior to that time, Pittsburgh State was running all of our mental and physical health programs and our health center through the university. And it was costing us a significant amount of money. We have a great facility on campus that is, quite frankly, an emergency 24-hour type clinic. And we were running our programs through that, and it was becoming something that was very difficult for us to maintain a level of service that really met the needs of our students. So Dr. Shipp and the administration at Pittsburgh State partnered with Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas. We're almost a year into that partnership. It has saved the university over $500,000 because we basically pay them as a third party to run the center for us. Then they can collect insurance and other things. And it's also increased usage from our students by 18%. That does not include the fact that now Pittsburgh State University doesn't just run a health center for our students and our faculty and staff, but that health center is accessible to anyone who walks in the door in Southeast Kansas. And that is something that, quite frankly, I'm incredibly proud of. We don't have the usage numbers from non-institutional students, faculty, and staff, but we know, again, it's up 18% just amongst faculty and staff. And it has been an incredible partnership, which has really not only driven some cost savings for the university, increased the usage from our students, but also provided an incredible service to Southeast Kansas and Pittsburgh, because we want to make sure that we're not in a healthcare desert. I heard the word banking desert before. Healthcare is so important to Southeast Kansas, and so we're trying to be a good partner there. We also, I think, talked about in the previous time I was here, employee headcount. We did reduce headcount when we had enrollment declines between 2016 and 2021. And during that time and over the last 10 years, we've actually reduced headcount by around 120 positions, mostly from, again, response to enrollment declines. We have had a few increases in the last few years as enrollment has begun to tick back up. But we've been very, very intentional in terms of what those roles are on our campus. And those are roles that support students directly and support students and support teaching and learning through research. And we're happy to say that because of those initiatives that we've put in place with those new programs that we've had to hire some new employees for, we have seen significant success in terms of not only student retention, and our numbers really show that out, but also increased graduation rates. And I think that's another piece of the fact that we have continued to grow enrollment and get out of that slump of enrollment declines because of that one-on-one advising student success service that we can offer to students. We've also had some structural changes just since I've been there, and that is streamlining decision-making. We talked about this a little bit last time I was here, and that is basically making sure that our organization is not overly layered or overly heavy in terms of administration. I have taken it upon myself to change some policies in terms of the way we hire or create new positions, with them needing my direct approval before they can happen, so that we can do some more analysis and data things. We've also created a couple of different policies around that, and policies around how our employees engage and how our employees interact with the institution. And that's part of the Access Pitt State plan as well. So we're excited about that. Chair Turk, you asked one of my colleagues about administrative bloat. And yes, that is a challenge in higher education. And we have to make sure that we are aware of that. I'm going to claim a little bit of naivete at Pittsburgh State because I haven't been there that long, but I can assure you that's something that we're looking at daily. We've actually made some organizational changes just recently to diminish some of that and making sure that truly our administration and our FTE load is truly dedicated towards serving our students best and serving our students best so that they can be successful, not only at our institution, but when they go forward and leave us. We talked about some of these projects last time I was here, and that is from a research perspective, the collaboration that we have and what's happening in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and wanted to just kind of touch on those again and really from a different angle of where they really are making a difference in terms of economic development for our region. And that is our new prove-out facility, which is almost complete with the dirt work. They're about to build forms and pour slabs. And that really is a project that is an expansion of our Tyler Research Center. Tyler Research Center is really heavy into materials and construction and even battery technology. And that is allowing us to be a university that has some commercialization programs that will bring new businesses, bring new research in terms of people that want to start new businesses and have a product, and they need to have a facility where they can prove it out so they can then take it to market so that they can monetize a contract with that piece of equipment or technology they have so that they can get it to market. That is also directly related to the Eagle Pitcher Technologies plant, and that is the battery plant that is right next door. That plant came to Pittsburgh. That Eagle Pitcher is actually located in Joplin. They also have a small plant in Pittsburgh, but they're expanding their footprint in Pittsburgh and their production facilities because of what we're doing at Tyler Research and the idea of this prove-out facility, so that a lot of their research can be done through the university that will help them support more jobs in Kansas and more jobs in Pittsburgh. Eagle Pitcher, if you don't know, is a battery company, but they're not one that makes batteries necessarily in terms of the commercial use that we see. Their largest customer is the United States Department of Defense. They make almost all the batteries that are in our satellites, and they make a significant number of the batteries that are in our cruise missile systems. And so just those two projects alone are going to bring 60 new jobs to our region, 60 new jobs to Pittsburgh, Kansas. And again, as I heard earlier, those smaller corporations, those smaller entities that are bringing us 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 jobs are really is what's going to make a difference and make an impact in the small towns in rural southeast Kansas. The other project there is the KBI Regional Crime Lab. That is a collaborative effort between the state, federal government, the city, the county, and the university to bring that facility. They actually have finished pouring their slab. Eagle Pitcher actually has steel in the ground. They're going vertical. KBI has poured their slab. They're about to start going vertical. And our university campus police will be housed in that building, which will save us a significant amount of money. And they will be the protector, I guess, of that space. They will be the ones that control access into that space. And then we'll be able to move our criminal justice program into that building and expand it in a way like we've seen at Washburn with their partnership with the KBI as well. We do have a couple of other projects going downtown that we've talked about, and that is the Kels College of Business and the Best Hotel. And really wanted to speak to these from a little different angle. I know we talk a lot about our footprint and the need to reduce our footprint. And I can tell you that I'm proud of the fact that once we get the Kels College of Business up and running and we do the ribbon cutting August 11th, and that's the same day for the Best, and you will all get invitations. I'd like to show you these two buildings, but the Best doesn't have an elevator yet, and I don't think you want to climb 13 flights of stairs. But they are buildings that will help us actually reduce our footprint, because once we build these buildings, then we'll tear down the old Kels College of Business. And it actually is a building that has a larger footprint than our new building. But we're not using all that space because the old building, quite frankly, has space in it that is unusable from a standpoint of it was an old high school that has a gymnasium and an auditorium that we can't use. And so we will be reducing some of our campus footprint when we actually move into a new building. And then the Best Hotel addresses a critical need for us because we tore down an old student housing complex this summer. There's a couple more that we probably need to tear down as well because they've just become so old that the deferred maintenance and the operation cost on those buildings is significantly more than it would be even on an older building that's renovated. So when the Best comes online, it will be one that is a need that we're pretty sure we're going to be at 100% capacity the day we open. And we're excited about that. That project downtown with Block 22 is one that we're proud of. It's a mixed-use retail residential facility, which includes Block 22, the Best Hotel, and Kels College of Business. When the Block 22 came online 2 or 3 years ago, we knew that it was going to generate some retail sales tax for the community. We didn't have a sense that it was going to be as successful as it is. Those 3 buildings, before they were renovated, were generating about $2,000 worth of property taxes. And I say about because they really were buildings that probably needed to be torn down, and there were some years that probably was difficult for the people to even collect that property tax. But last year alone, those 3 buildings, just the retail space on the bottom floor, generated about $1.4 million worth of sales tax. And we have a good indication from forecasters that when those 3 projects come online, we'll have about 500 faculty, staff, students living, breathing, eating, consuming in downtown Pittsburgh, Kansas. And we think that on average, each of those will spend about $3,000 a year doing that, which will generate even additional sales tax revenue for our community. We also have a couple of initiatives, as my colleague at Fort Hays talked about the Heartland Rural Innovators Initiative. We've been chosen to be part of that. We're really excited about that initiative. I think he probably did a better job of explaining it than I can. And then there's a group of a CDC in Pittsburgh called Point Forward, and we help Point Forward with significant operational support for that community development corporation. That community development corporation is focused on childcare and housing. They just renovated a old school building in Pittsburgh and have turned that into a childcare facility, which I think more than doubles the number of childcare seats in our city. That just opened this fall. And then the other expanding is that they have purchased a residential community that was developed but never really took off. And they have purchased that from the developer, and they are making putting together some incentives for builders to come in and build new houses. And I think I heard yesterday that, I believe the number I heard yesterday was that they've got contracts for either 6 or 10 lots in that new facility, in that housing complex because of this CDC's involvement to start building more houses in Pittsburgh, Kansas. We also have an entrepreneurial,
Dr. Newsom,
yes,
I don't mean to rush.
yeah. Am I way behind?
Yeah, we are way
Okay,
behind.
I'm sorry.
And I would like to give the
Yeah.
committee a little time for questions.
Super.
Do me a favor,
Okay.
whatever, however many
Yeah.
slides you have
So
left.
if you just continue to look through your information I gave you, there's only 3 more slides left. Really wanted to just talk real quickly about our literacy programs. And that is that program that was funded by the legislature for the Blueprint for Literacy. We want to be the epicenter for that, and through our Center of Reading. The numbers there that are pretty overwhelming is since that program's inception, we've trained 639 teachers to be better teachers of reading throughout the state of Kansas. I think that's more than any other 4-year institution in the state. And then we got some anecdotal information yesterday. The first kind of reading scores that have come in as a post-assessment to the literacy scores that were done in the fall. We feel like that there's some school districts out there that have told us because of our help and because of that program, they're seeing reading scores increase by as much as 5% on average, which is pretty amazing and pretty exciting. We also have a partnership with Ignite Academy, which is out of Bentonville, Arkansas. And that's through some of our Connected Accelerated Pathway programs. We are going to award 10 tuition and fee scholarships to 10 students from Ignite Academy. Ignite Academy is a vocational high school as part of the Bentonville School District to come to Crossland College of Technology to be electricians and builders and construction managers and all those programs that we offer at Crossland. And I'm excited about that because I think one of our success points is that we need to bring people to Kansas and we need to keep them in Kansas. And I think through that program, we're going to find students that are coming to us from out of state that will continue to be in Kansas. And then Chair Turk, just to cap it off, I just have to tell you this. So when we left here a few weeks ago, we talked about Access Pitt and we talked about 4 strategic goals, 5 years to shape those goals. It would bring us $6 million of additional revenue through tuition and fees. And I think you just said 4, 5, 6. Well, I got back to campus and organically that has become the 4, 5, 6 program. That wasn't something we talked about before. So you have labeled our new strategic plan. We've added 7 because 7 is the number of students that we want to enroll over the next 5 years to grow our institution. So 4, 5, 6, 7 is the strategic plan that's going to be the backbone and the measurement and the metrics for Access Pitt State going
Are you
forward.
saying I can retire and go home now?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know about that, but I might just end this all while I'm on top and just walk out the door.
Sorry I took up too much time.
Good.
I get excited about talking about our university, and anytime y'all want to call me up here to talk about Pittsburgh State, then I will do it with excitement and passion and appreciation.
We will never be upset about that. I
Yeah.
think it's required for the occupation that you have. Thank you again for being here. Committee, we have just a few minutes. If you have questions, we're going to start with Representative Haskins, and then we're going to, I don't believe it, but in case you yell at me later, you can't say I didn't give you a shot. Okay, Representative
And your
Sweetley.
president and I are communicating from the last time we talked, and we're going to try to get together and do some.
For
Representative
the
Sweetley.
record, fantastic job.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. And I appreciate your passion on your job or your career. I just had a question on the partnership with Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas. I really do appreciate that and admire that. Are you guys tracking at all? I know it's a bigger subject that's starting to come up in the last couple of years with mental health and younger people. Are you guys tracking it at all? The people that you're retaining year to year are dropping out due to mental health at all? I know it's a hard thing to track. I'm just saying, are you guys looking at that if it's 100 students a year, and it could be a guess or ballpark?
You know, I don't know if we're specifically tracking the ones that
Are
that
not
would-
coming
that would
back.
tell us that they're not coming back for that reason, quite frankly, because students don't tell you that's not why they're coming back. They tell you they're not coming back because they can't afford it. That's what, no matter what their reason is, that's what they tell you why they're not coming back. But we are seeing increasing numbers of students who are needing mental health services, suicide ideation, self-harm, and that is just an ongoing thing. I'm going to try to temper my response because I like to talk, but for years and years, we talked about remedial education in higher education. And that was the fact that students weren't necessarily ready for higher education or college in terms of math and English. So what we did was we basically worked that into our curriculum. So we now meet the students where they are and help them get prepared if they're not. Mental health is the new remedial education for higher education. So we've got to approach that with the same vigor and passion to help our students have the resources they need to overcome those challenges, just so that they can be successful in life, quite frankly.
Go right ahead.
So, and I know with that partnership, do you guys feel that that is pretty adequate in just covering that need? I know it's kind of crept up on us and it hasn't been talked about enough. Or is it still going to need to grow even more?
You know, I'd never use the word adequate because I think that need is going to be growing and I don't know if we can ever be adequate, but we have improved, we have significantly improved the services that we offer to students and the ability for them to seek and find help very easily when they need it.
I find that very awesome. Thank you so much.
Anything further for Dr. Newsom? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate y'all.
I know for all 3 institutions, though 2 of them left, it is a long drive for you all. And again, I appreciate you making the journey. Committee, that wraps us up for the day. Thank you for being patient. And I thank you for, we'll see you on Wednesday. Dayton, what do we got on Wednesday? Monday, sorry. I was thinking it was another holiday. What do we
On
got?
Monday, we will have a presentation mostly from the two-year colleges on state aid for 2 years. And then K-State hearings will be on Tuesday.
You were adjourned.